And there we go. All right. So our two featured guests this evening are carrying out a traditional bloodline back to the mid 1970s. That's right. And the second generation.
Damn!
He had an in-ring career that spanned around 17 years, making his well-known name not to be forgotten with his hardcore ground-and-pound grapple style that traveled well throughout the Midwest. The third-generation wrestler only started back in 2019, but has made great strides and set himself up for future success inside the ropes for years to come. Follow Scout Everywhere Nation, put your hands together for the Angel of Light, Izzy Blackwell, and his son, Damien Blackwell. All right. There we go. I think we got them. Hey, what's going on, gentlemen? How you doing?
How are you doing, sir?
I think, Izzy, want to make sure that your mic is on, sir. I think you were trying to talk.
There we go. Can you hear me now?
There we go. There we go. Excellent.
I got a feeling your partner in crime probably had something to do with that, too.
No, I didn't touch the mic. That's not me.
Yeah, well.
Izzy, I missed you!
I didn't miss you. I thought Felicia. I thought Felicia had saved me from you.
Oh, Izzy, by the way, Angelic says hi.
Tell her hi, but you I thought you were locked up somewhere, Matt Maniac.
I was.
Well, how are you?
They let me out.
Oh man, that would have made a good chapter for a new book.
I can see why they let him out. Who would have wanted to entertain him?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh my goodness. So, all right, gentlemen. Let's see. Just before I start, GQ cannot be here. Sorry, but now Matt Maniac. Did you get some notes?
Wow. I'd rather dealt with Mr. GQ.
Nobody wants that. No, ask everybody in the chat room. Nobody likes GQ. So you got me.
I bet you if I take a poll right now, I think GQ will come out ahead as the fan favorite.
and with all with
how do I do this? Wait. Here we go.
Yeah, here we go.
With all the money GQ's got, I can act like I like him.
You have no idea how much of that money is being spent on medication, though. Trust me.
You need a larger budget.
That's okay. I understand needing medication to help you. I mean, you know, I thought I was the Antichrist incarnate, and now my son Damien truly believes that he was an angel kicked out of heaven. He is the deceived one, Damien Blackwell. So yeah. I understand medication.
Yeah. So, well, Damien Blackwell, I'm sure, we'll definitely, we'll be talking with Damien as well. Like, I'll even work here about him. I'm not even looking at your screen. What the hell? You've got sock puppets and everything else that's creeping the screen. What the hell, man?
See, here's the one thing, Ruby. You know that only idiots have puppets, though. So.
And I picked tonight to stop drinking. That's the thing. That's the worst thing I could have ever done. Well, yeah. So Angelic Sin is, of course, sent you a nice little love message there, and yeah, so it was fun. Yeah, those we'll get a chance hopefully to talk about those days as well. But what I want to go ahead and get started off with here is with Izzy first, of course. A lot of people like to know what ties you had to the Crusher, Jerry Blackwell. And when did you start watching wrestling? And what programs or promotions did you usually watch when you were growing up?
Oh wow, that's a lot of questions in one. Let me make sure I keep them straight. First of all, my relations two Jerry Blackwell are actually maternal. My mother was Jerry's sister, and he did not smarten anybody up to the business, let anybody know anything except for Grandpa. And that was because of a threat of killing the first wrestler he saw beating up his son. Of course, that didn't happen a whole lot, as you know, from his career. I grew up watching a lot. Being my family, once my mom had gotten married, migrated to the Midwest, and I started watching it at a pretty young age, about 5 or 6 years old. I was watching wrestling at the Chase every Sunday. Me and Grandpa would skip out of church a few minutes early so that we could get home in time and watch it. And then cable rolled around, and I was also watching WCCW, World Class Championship Wrestling at the time. So I became quite familiar with the Von Erich family and Bruiser Brody all at a young age. And, when that's your family, but of course, my mom was like, no, your uncle does that stuff and it's crazy. You're never going to get into that, which is why I was so late getting into the business in my life. I didn't start till I was 29. But AWA, I until they became the only show in the business, I never really was a WWE champion or fan, WWF fan, whatever. I never got into the whole Hulk Hogan, Ultimate Warrior cartoon kind of thing.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So that was roughly around, without a guess, around 85.
My starts of watching wrestling were probably a little more like 74-ish, maybe, if I was 6 years old. I'm a pretty old guy nowadays, so.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so Sam Muchnick was definitely a household name, and of course,
Oh yeah.
a lot of people may not know this, but Uncle Jerry was one of the few guys to ever hold the Missouri heavyweight title for Sam Muchnick. In fact, he did so twice, and never go on to win the world title. I know there was him and Ted DiBiase and maybe a few others, but it was a stepping stone, to that plateau. And, a lot of people don't know it, but Jerry held that title twice. And, that's probably the one I hold most dear in my heart as far as a family thing, other than seeing my son win his first title. And of course, when you win your own first title, it's kind of an honor, then you realize, oh, crap, I got to do this all the time, and there's somebody always shooting for me. And it totally changes the way you view the business when you're the guy that's supposed to be the guy.
Right. Yeah. And so I think Jerry started at 74, I believe, if I'm doing my history right. But yeah, I mean, watching at a very young age, and also with that, I mean, that NWA Missouri State title, I mean, that, like I said, there's a lot of notable old school Hall of Famers that held that title. It's definitely something that, I mean, not just in the St. Louis Wrestling Club promotion per se, but even just around, because I'm sure Bob Geigel's promotion had guys aiming for that too, and just a lot of guys. I mean, freaking, Harley Race, Ric Flair. I think even Terry Funk had it. So I mean, it's definitely a notable title. So nothing to shake a stick at.
Yeah, and I mean, him and Ken Patera had held the AWA World Tag Team Champions. Him and Buck Robley had held the Central States version of the NWA Tag Team Champions. But it was always that Missouri State title that was, when I was younger and he had the belt, I could always go to school and tell my friends, hey man, that my uncle, because back when I was growing up, it seemed like everybody in grade school was a wrestling fan, and everybody knew wrestling at the Chase, and it was nice to know that you could go to school and tell those kids, hey, that's my uncle, and like I said, I mean, even my mom didn't get smartened up, or my grandma. It was only my grandpa, and so nobody. And today, even though there are uh, people who think they're smart to the business, all I can say to those people is get in that ring and land on your back a couple times and see how you feel the next day, because it's no trampoline, that's for sure. And it's probably the toughest predetermined business there is.
Yeah.
And we all know that boxing and a lot of MMA to a point is rigged by somebody.
Yeah. Yeah, well, those like I said, those are extreme sports too, and like you said, nothing to play around with. But
Yeah,
um,
and a couple more things about Uncle Jerry that a lot of people don't know is that he actually wrestled during the 70s for the Worldwide Wrestling Federation for Vince McMahon's dad. And he had a tryout in 1984 for Vince McMahon, but they wanted all these wrestlers to go in and cut a promo too. And he wasn't a real patient guy from what I remember even, but his big deal was like, hey, I'm a wrestler. I'm not a talker. I'm not going to stand around here, and this is my time too. So he decided, screw Vince McMahon. I'm out of here, and headed back down south in the Midwest and continued to work the indies.
yeah. Well, like I said, I mean, I guess I wouldn't even know. I mean, because Jerry would have seemed to be the type that even if putting a heel manager with them, even with like Blassie at the time, or
Yeah,
I mean, if the guy don't want to talk, get somebody that could talk for you. That's the whole thing.
absolutely.
That's the purpose of a manager, and I think the Matt Maniac would know about that. About
Absolutely.
That's right. So
Yeah, he would know something about that.
But I'm gonna switch gears here over here real quick because I got a question here for Damien now. Because obviously he's he's a young one, and he's learning everything that's you're from the two generations in front of him. So Damien, tell us the moment that you realized that you wanted to follow. I'm sorry, that you wanted to follow in your dad's footsteps and become a third generation wrestler.
Man, I'd have to say kind of young because watching it all, wrestling and everything, when you're younger, it's really cool. And as I started growing up and getting to learn everything, I started realizing it could actually be a reality. And since then it's started going really well. But
But I know you watched your dad a lot, and it's just I don't know if there's like was there like a point like maybe after your dad was done wrestling they were like, hey, maybe it's kind of my turn to go in, or did you kind of decide that you wanted to start doing it before he stopped before he retired from the ring?
I'd have to say it got like the thoughts started getting like real after like he had retired, and I started learning a lot of stories and stuff that I can actually remember to this day now, since my brain's developed a lot more since being a little kid.
Yeah. So I mean, and that's us, because I don't know, because Izzy, when did you actually? Because I really meant to ask you earlier about when your last match was. I mean, when you actually stepped away?
Oh wow! I honestly can't even remember.
Okay.
Sad thing is, Matt Maniac could probably have a better chance of remembering.
I'm thinking.
There was, we knew with about 6 months before I retired that my back was shattered. I confess I was eating prescription pain medication by the handful just to be able to go out and put on a show. But I'm thinking that it was probably somewhere like, oh wow,
2005, 2006.
yeah, somewhere around that area. 2005, 2006, 2007, maybe. I don't, but somewhere in that area.
Wrestling, right?
Do what?
It was Max Wrestling, wasn't it?
Yes, it was. And unfortunately, a manager whose stables I seem to feud with all throughout the Midwest and the South, Devin Andrews, got me to misuse my words and guarantee a victory over his guy. And my former partner Harsh knew that the screw job was on, and went to the promoter and got himself put in the match so that he could watch my back. And I ended up handcuffed to the ropes, and he ended up pinning who my original opponent was, Shorty Biggs, and he ended up actually not only winning my title but forcing me to retire, all because of, but once you're handcuffed, if the man with the key runs away and you can't catch him, there ain't a whole lot you can do. So the second I realized I was handcuffed, I knew my career was over. And I hate to say it as a man, but the waterworks kind of started before the referee's hand even hit 3, because I knew I'd just been duped and the screws had just been put to me.
Yeah. And it's a shame. I mean, as far as whenever, we stepped away from Max and all that, and so it was actually kind of shorter than I thought. I thought you had wrestled a little longer, but like I said, my memory goes around. So we're trying to remember a lot of the guys around here.
Yeah.
And
1998 till 2006.
Okay. Yeah. Well, even though you stepped away from the ring, though, I know you've been involved in the wrestling brotherhood.
Oh
community.
yeah, I worked as a pencil. For those fans that don't know, that's the booker for a couple companies after I retired. I've mentored young men that have gone on to do decent things in the business. And then once my son got old enough and was like, Dad, I want to, what do you think if I just told you I wanted to train to be a wrestler? And my first thought was, there ain't a chance in hell. After all the injuries that I had, and this was before I was even diagnosed with the CTE, which is the chronic traumatic encephalopathy, which is run rampant in wrestling, football, those type of sports, from so many head injuries. But then he was like, well, the guys that'll be training me are Frankie D and Wicked, and they want you to come down and work with the kids that are there with their promos in psychology. And I was like, well, if I'm going to be there every show or every practice, and I trust these guys, because they're when it's your kid, there's only a handful of guys that you trust with, their career, especially early on. He was only 14 when he started training, and your body's pretty delicate at 14 years old, but he took right to it, man. He immediately became known as Bumper to the entire training facility, because he was out bumping any of the cruiserweights up through the heavyweight guys that were in there. And, he really took to it pretty quick. So, but yeah, working with Frankie D with his Ring of Courage Training Center, I got to help a lot of young men that are working with CHWA now. But I certainly am not going to crap on those guys, because my son wrestles with them as well. But there are definitely more than one tier in that company. There are guys that can put on a really good match, and then there are guys that are not so, but they try and mix them up instead of, in my early days, and going back even before I got into the business, they had enhancement talent. And so that's one of the things that CHWA needs to do is figure out who their enhancement talent is and use them like that instead of trying to send them out to work a 30-minute match with even as young as he is, Damien or PT Beckham or Chris Exodus. Those guys they can really go, but they try and send some of these guys who aren't as good and really expose what we do and try and put them on an even playing field with the guys that should be their stars. And then I think that's affected a lot of people's view of the company. But hopefully with them coming out of this pandemic and starting to run again, hopefully they'll mix some things up and start to use their top talent in its best way. And there's nothing wrong with being an enhancement talent. One of the guys who did some of my training worked as enhancement talent for WWF and WCW, Gary Night Train Jackson. So I mean, there's nothing wrong with being an enhancement talent. Of course, it's a whole different story being an enhancement talent like Gary and being a local enhancement guy, but it's essentially still the same job. It's to go out to the best of your ability and make the other guy look like he should, like he could compete for a belt or something.
Yeah, absolutely. So I just want to let everybody know once again we are here tonight with Izzy Blackwell and Damien Blackwell, second and third generation wrestlers. Izzy wrestled around the Midwest from '98 to 2006, whereas Damien Blackwell just started in 2019, and I had something on the tip of my. Oh yeah, what I wanted to tell Damien is, be thankful that you've got that ring at 14 years old. Because I don't know. I tell some people this, and I've told my story. Where few people have heard it before, but the way I got my training is I self-taught my bumps on 2 inches of polyurethane, laying on the grass, and I took straight back bumps there with no give. And when I first got in that ring at 21 years old, it felt like heaven. I'll tell you. At least something's got some give.
That's one of the things that I pointed out to him, and Matt Maniac can attest to this too, because a good manager always needs to be trained as well to some degree, because you never know when you're going to get busted in the head and take one of those falls. But when we first started, we had to set up the ring for the veterans, and then either before the ring got there or after it was set up, we would take bumps on the floor. We weren't even allowed in the ring at that point, which is why I always get bothered by promoters that let little kids in the ring during intermission and things, because that's a bit of a sacred place. And Damien has learned one of the things that a lot of guys may not ever catch even, but a wrestler wiping his feet before he steps into the ring, because you never want to crap in your own plate, and it's a disrespect to the ring that is going to keep you from dying, if you had to take all them crazy bumps on a floor, and so it's kind of a sacred place, and he respects that ring very much. And even when we got the bump in the ring, it was in Carol Brown's old wood ring, and that's
Sorry.
yeah, that's kind of like, if you want to know what that's bumping, if you're just a fan out there listening, go take a back bump, which is a basic wrestling fall, on your living room floor. It's the exact same thing.
Bumping in the ground was a lot softer.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's designed for boxing, and we're taking bumps on that. Yeah, if you're not hitting the center of that ring, then you're in for a hurt for a while.
Yeah.
The center had no give in that ring.
Well, when Gary did the training with me and Harsh, and I'm sure you've had some ties there at some point too. we trained with Gary at South Broadway Athletic Club's training center, and that's what they had in there was an old boxing ring, and it was. I was like, oh my goodness, when do I get to work in one of these like newfangled metal bar rings? You know. Yeah. So, yeah. Like I said, people that they think they know so much about the business because more than enough has been exposed to the world, but they need to understand that there are guys that get injuries that end their careers all the time, on the indie circuit, any of the major independents to AEW and WWE. There are guys that the CTE thing with the concussions, that's what the determination was with Chris Benoit and that horrible incident was that he suffered from CTE and it was at a late stage. And I don't find it hard to believe that the guy might have been bad off enough, because I know the effects it's had on me, that he might accidentally in a rage kill his Nancy and Daniel, and then when he became lucid again realized what he had done and taken his own life. I know that's not a popular stance, but I know where it's possible, being diagnosed with this disorder. And people like Edge, Tess Martin, I'm sorry, not Edge, but Tess Martin, he had the same thing. Chris Canyon, same thing. There are guys like Daniel Bryan and Christian who are probably going to end up with their careers being over because of it. What wrestlers go through, man, it's like the actor in the movie being the stuntman, the director, the choreographer. You have to play a whole lot of roles, and the big one of those is being a stuntman and taking all those crazy bumps. There wasn't some secret hidden pad when Mankind went flying off a cage from 25, 30 feet in the air through that rinky-dink announce table. Don't try that one at home, kids.
Right. Yeah. Oh my goodness. As Matt Maniac's picture is floating somehow, I don't know. I'm not going to bother.
I'm free.
Okay.
Free falling.
Go back to Freaker Paying.
Oh no.
I got another question I got to ask Izzy here. So we're going to go back to the Crusher. In reference to Jerry, in reference to his passing. Many have reported his cause of death as him being overweight and suffering a heart attack, but you're saying that particular cause of death is false. So that is exactly what happened and led to his passing.
Yeah, that's an absolute falsehood, and I've heard that many times. What had happened was he was on his way back from a show, like many of us. We drive to and from shows, and he wanted to try and be home for the rest of the the end of Sunday and Monday and Tuesday before he'd be back out on the road. So he was driving back to Stone Mountain in Georgia and had a car wreck. And now his being obese did impact the fact that he had some broken bones and had become immobile for a while, and he caught pneumonia. And anybody who knows anything about the medical field can tell you that if you just lay around and you don't do nothing, pneumonia is one of the things that's most likely to kick in. And he actually died from complications due to pneumonia. The man probably, I mean, you saw him in the ring, man. Guys like him, I like to put Uncle Jerry in a category with guys like Rodney Anawai, Yokozuna. Those guys were special big guys. I knew I wasn't going to be doing those standing drop kicks. So what I did was I learned how to do an enziguri kick. And of course, Damien has that in his repertoire too. Just because when somebody catches a big guy trying to kick them, they're thinking in their mind, I got their foot, I caught it. Now I'm just going to tip this fat guy over, and by the time they've thought all that, they've gotten kicked in the back of the head with the other boot. But yeah, anyway, to make a long answer short, he died of complications due to pneumonia because of a car accident. It had nothing to do with his heart. He was very healthy for his size, and TV made him look a lot bigger. I mean, in girth he was big, but he was only 5'9" and 475 pounds. So I mean, the guy he was beyond agile, especially for that time. Back in those days, you couldn't come off the top rope, you couldn't kick with the toe of your boot, you couldn't throw punches. All those things were illegal. You couldn't throw the guy over the top rope, unless it was a battle royal. So I mean, the business is a lot different now, but for his time, he was way beyond the curve, man. And so was Rodney Yokozuna. You hear guys and when you see guys like that who can go out and do 30 minutes and they come back and yeah, they might be breathing heavy, but they're not gassed. They might get blown up here and there, but they're able to catch it and get a little gas in their tank and keep going. Where I've seen guys like who was it? Bill Goldberg that came back and wrestled Drew McIntyre a couple months ago. At the end of the match, Goldberg's like sucking air and can't hardly stand up. And this is the guy that two companies have tried to build around. That's almost laughable. No wonder the Falcons cut him from football.
Oh my God, yeah. Ooh, boy. So before I actually am going to turn it over to Mac Maniac here for about a question or two, but
Yay!
I do want to let everybody know that we do have our lines open for those who are listening or who've got questions or comments.
Ooh.
I want to say to either one of our guests, our line is open, 314-764-5540. So just let us know, and we will do our best to get you on. And of course, if you do call while somebody else is on the line, we can't get to you, wait about a couple minutes, and then, hey, look. Oh, hold on a second. I think I know who this is.
Probably Matt Maniac calling.
This is who I think it is. You're in deep trouble, sir.
Is this where I call in at?
Oh no!
Oh no! I'm dropping you. No.
He's on the phone and on the computer.
Oh my Lord! What are you doing to me, Matt Maniac? No, that's for our listeners, not for you.
But I'm listening.
Oh God!
If you got to put up with this guy all night, it might be 420 for the rest of your life.
Oh my gosh! I'm telling you.
What are you, a dumbass?
God,
Yeah, but Izzy, at least you know what the is.
Don't call the line, Matt Maniac. That's for our listeners that want to talk to Izzy or Damien, please.
But I want to talk to him, and I'm listening.
Okay. Well, you've actually got questions to ask.
That's what I wanted to ask.
Did you get the notes?
Yes, but couldn't you have written them in crayon to be easier for me to read?
You can't convert crayon over in a computer file, Matt Maniac.
There's a way, I know it.
And don't try and draw on the screen. You're going to damage it, okay? So just try to read.
I know there's a way to do it, too.
Oh, my Lord.
Oh,
go ahead, Matt Maniac. You got your questions ready?
Yeah, I got it.
The patients have taken over the mental ward.
I've been running this train for a while.
Oh, no.
So, if Izzy and Damien, both of you, I know some of it was kind of answered. how did you get your opportunity to get into the wrestling business? Who trained and taught you ring basics, and what did you get the most out of your wrestling training?
Well, as the Matt Maniac, you would know that my initial training was at the good old MVWA Training Center, and fortunately,
nice grass, didn't it?
Oh yeah, and fortunately, I had some people like Gary Knight Train Jackson, Steve Sharp,
Bama,
and Bama. Yeah, actually, the first time I ever got body slammed while training, I was slammed by, and bless his soul, Bama Bodine, who was about 5'8" and 100 pounds with a couple wet sponges on his back. And another guy who I give my respects to up in heaven is Ben Oliver, Big Bad Ben, who ran MRW, Midwest Renegade Wrestling, and our GCW, Gateway Championship Wrestling. He and I wrestled in the 1986 Junior Nationals. So we had a shoot amateur wrestling match, and he beat me, and he took second in that tournament, a nationwide tournament. I took third, and so because of that, we never, a lot of guys had problems with him, but we never did. And he let me, he set up a deal with me and me alone. If I would come help set up for their shows with the ring, that I could come train at their proper training facility with proper trainers and train every night if I wanted to. And, Mama didn't raise no fool. I jumped on that train real quick. There you got Ben Oliver and Ty Dalton. Another guy that had a big part to do with my training was the Wild Man, the Beast. Yeah, so I mean, I had a whole lot of trainers, which was good because it made me prepared for a lot of different styles,
Yeah. Well, what about Damien?
Yeah, well, obviously, like we said earlier, with Frankie did a majority of the training, and obviously there was some in-ring work. We had Wicked for cardio, so that definitely helped me get especially with being a big guy, helping me last longer without getting winded as easily in the ring, getting all my cardio up, and it was really helpful, especially to have people like them training me. Especially with being at a young age, they were able to help me and get me through everything really simply, without having me overthink it. And it's been able to get me to this point, so it worked pretty well, clearly.
Nice.
And he for a young kid, Damien has picked up real quick on booking himself. In fact, I hope I don't embarrass your son, but a couple weeks ago, over me trying to set something up for him, and he was like, "Look, Dad, this is my bit now. I want to do this." And in his first year before the pandemic broke out, and he had wrestled almost a year to the date when the pandemic broke out and everybody started shutting down, he had already wrestled 60 plus matches in less than a year. So I mean, he was on a pace for about 80 matches had the pandemic not broken out during his first year, which, as both of you guys know, 80 matches your rookie year, that's a lot of business that you're doing. He's done some traveling already, so but Mom and Dad still go with him. You never want to pass up a chance to embarrass your kid.
I guess not, man. Guess not. Wow. I think you got one more question for Izzy there, Matt Maniac, as of right now.
I asked. Oh wait, yeah, there is.
I've lost my audio feed here.
Can you hear me?
I don't think he's at. I don't think so.
Izzy,
give me 1 minute, guys. I'll be back. You can talk with Damien while I'm gone.
Okay, so I'll ask a question for Damien while we wait for you, okay? So We'll wait on your question here, Matt Maniac. But Damien,
But
what I
I
want to ask here is whether it be in the business for a short while or even to those who have been in the business for many years, what's your take on someone who feels that they pay their dues and not wanting to contribute to a show?
You never stop paying your dues. You could be, in this business 20 years, and it's great, especially when you get to see them, still trying to help out in some ways. You never stop. Just like you never stop learning. You'll always learn something new, no matter how long you've been here.
All right, excellent. It's actually an excellent answer I wanted to hear, and I'll elaborate that on a little bit more. But we actually do have a call coming in.
That's not me.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, here we go. Ringtone you're not brought to you by Apple. You got the Falls Count Everywhere podcast.
That's a problem.
This is PT Beckham.
It's Mr. Beckham. How you doing?
Hey, I'm doing great. I just wanted to tell you all that I'm enjoying the podcast, and it's really good to see Izzy Blackwell live and live in color on my phone, on my news feed. I didn't have any questions or anything. I just want to say how much I appreciate Izzy Blackwell and how much I love working with Damien. And can we please get Izzy Blackwell in the Hall of Fame, in the Midwest Hall of Fame? Can we please do that as a wrestling community, please?
Amen.
Yeah.
That's all I really wanted to say, man. So I know Damien Blackwell, he's going to be one of the biggest names in the area very, very soon.
I appreciate it.
Hey,
Thank
nothing
you,
but love,
PT.
man. Nothing but love. Nothing but love, guys. So I just wanted to hop in here and try to maybe open some people's eyes for the Midwest Bad Boy, So y'all continue on with the great show. But Izzy, I love you, brother, and I can't wait to see you soon.
Thank you. And you keep going with your career, young man. I'm very proud of where you're at right now.
Well, I appreciate that. You've always been a mentor, and anytime Damien needs anything, the Midwest Bad Boy always has his back. So just remember that.
There you go. Thanks,
I'll
man.
see y'all later on. No problem.
Have a good night.
Much love.
That's actually PT Beckham actually challenging for the CHWA heavyweight title on April 25th, facing Johnny Banks. So, yeah.
And in fact, if we've got time to talk about it, I'm sure that Damien might like to discuss a contract that he signed for that particular show just the other day.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I'd definitely be because I didn't know you even had a match, Damien. I'm definitely interested to hear that.
It was recently signed. I finally get to get my hands on Tommy Davis, as he goes by now. He thought it was a good idea at the TWA show to attack me after my match, so it's good to finally, have him stuck inside the ring with me so I can, get my hands on him, and, he'll know next time not to do that.
Oh, okay. Awesome. So kind of a grudge match, I guess. That's coming your way on the 25th of April in Centerville. So,
Yeah. I'm looking forward to that one. They training center together, and although Tommy Davis is a little bit older by a few years actually than Damien, it's going to be interested in seeing what it's going to be like when you're not playmates in the ring and not trying to hurt each other, and you're not looking to, as Dusty Rhodes used to say, looking for the pay window, if you will. It's a little different when your payday depends on how you perform against somebody as opposed to training. So I look forward to those two guys having a really good match, and I'm not just saying that because Damien's my son. I'm really a big fan of his. There are a few things that he's adapted from me, but he's really is kind of his own man. He's going to be, like he's only been 17 for 2 months. The kid's already like 6'2", 6'3", something like that. Probably about 225 on the weight. So I mean, he does things that a lot of big guys probably shouldn't.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Well,
I look forward to spending the rest of my days watching him grow in the ring and seeing what life on the road's like, and trying to teach him to stay away from, shall I say, ring rats.
I'm not saying a word.
Well, I'll tell you those days.
Matt Maniac, I don't know what you're doing, but I know it's you because you keep messing with my sound. Now I can't hear you again.
It's not me. I have nothing to do with it.
I'm sorry, but
imagine that.
yeah, with Izzy though, I'm sure Matt Maniac had something to do with it. Yeah, he's tried talking a few times. He's coming through like Max Headroom here. If you know, kind of know the reference back, going back to the '80s. But Izzy will be back here. But so for those who are, like I said, if you got any questions for any one of us, feel free to give us a call, 314-764-5540. And of course, let's see. Oh my gosh. Some of my stuff's starting to freeze up too. I'll tell you what, Matt Maniac, if I find you,
I didn't do it.
I'm gonna kick you so hard you're gonna go. I'm gonna kick you into last week. I'll tell you what. You better hope I don't find you.
It's Mary Moon. She did it.
Oh my god. Oh my gosh. I thought it was the lizards that Mr. Lilly works with. I'm sorry. Oh my god, no. Oh, so my goodness.
No, Michael Lilly's talking about actual, like, the animal rats, because he'll do that.
Oh my gosh, no. Okay, I think he may be coming back. I hope so. Because then, if so, you are in. All right, Izzy, are you back, sir?
Yeah, it's got to be that Matt Maniac messing with my that
No.
I need to go find a Telecon, and we can go out and do some hunting with my cell phone and shoot it.
Well, I was telling the audience here that a few times he's messed with you. Your audio was coming across like you're talking like Max Headroom.
It was an easy remix. But one time he had a beat you could dance to.
Yeah.
Yeah. Maniac better be lucky that he doesn't know where he's. That I don't know where he's at, because I'm going to kick him into last week. Get him out of here. Oh my goodness!
I found Playboy's basement, and I'm camped out in the basement.
Oh my!
He's out of
Playboy.
town.
At least it's not PYT's closet.
There's too many people in that closet.
That's a lot of people go in, but they never come out.
Oh my goodness! Matt Maniac, you have a question for Izzy.
What? Oh, yeah. Wait. Okay, sorry. Wait. What did I do here? Wait a minute. I did something. There we are. Where is Izzy? What are some notable names that you worked with throughout your career, and who's your favorite wrestler to work with?
Well, as far as independent workers, we could go anywhere from the man himself right there, Rough Cut Rick Ruby, one of the toughest. Brian James, my former partner Harsh. We beat each other across the Midwest and the South. We had Sherry Martell fighting over us in Georgia as to who she was going to manage, and there's some talent out there. And I was blessed to work on some shows with the late James Harris, Kamala, Marty Jannetty. I worked a show down in Georgia, right outside my family's ancestral home of Stone Mountain. I always refer to it as the Heaven and Hell show, because Jake Roberts was in one corner smoking crack. I mean, can I say that? and Ted DiBiase was in the other corner preaching to all the young guys. You know, which I can't say nothing about being a born again Christian now, but at that point I was not. So I always referred to that as the heaven and hell show. You know,
Which was which?
Do what?
Which was which?
At the time, Jake was definitely the hell part of it. You know, he's doing. I'm happy to see that he's gotten clean and healthy, and let's hope he stays that way for the rest of his life and can enjoy his kids and grandkids. I also worked a show with Matt Maniac for a gentleman named Carol Brown. I worked several shows for him, but we worked a show which was one of Randy Orton's only independent shows in the area. And he, well, let's say the person he was booked to work wasn't the best wrestler to ever come out of the gutter. And Randy literally knocked a row of lockers over in the locker room where we changed because he was so angered at this gentleman's inability to be a professional or to wrestle. And I think the only thing that saved that guy was that his dad, Bob Orton Sr., was on the show as well and was there and was like, "Hey kid, I got our pay. You took the book and let's get out of here." And of course worked many shows with Bob Orton. You know, so I've been blessed, man. I've worked with a lot of good people. I worked with that, you know, whole bunch out of Chicago. Ace Steel, Colt Cabana. Never worked a show with CM Punk. He's about the only one of the Chicago group that I didn't work with, you know, that little clique. But yeah, I mean, like I said, one of my favorite opponents was I try to forget about the hardcore days, although my son wrestled with him nearly every month for almost 6 months. That's Madman Pondo. And most people don't know, but he's not just a weapons guy. That guy can really wrestle if he wants to. Necro Butcher, who was in the movie The Wrestler, wrestled him, but worked both those guys multiple times. There's a lot of hardcore guys out there that people are, you know, they think that's all they can do is, you know, hit somebody with a light tube or hit them upside the head with a chair. And a lot of those guys like Pondo, you know, the second you try and get a little stupid on them, they're gonna throw a little bit of real wrestling in your face, some amateur stuff or, you know, chain wrestling and make it a little tight on you, and they're going to tie you into knots and make you think about trying to test an old man, you know?
Oh, yeah, exactly. Well, yeah. Well, I mean, I know some of those guys, like Necro Butcher's hardcore stuff is just hard to look at, man, because it's just so gruesome. Oh, my God, it is.
Yeah. And I thought he was kidding when Madman Pondo had told me when he found out I was going to be working Necro. He's like, Necro is one of my best friends, and he basically wrestles what he shows up in, and that's what he did. He took his tennis shoes and socks off, and took his shirt off and put on a wife beater and wrestled in jean shorts, and well, we beat each other all around Kansas, and but yeah, I mean, you know, and what you see in that movie really ain't far from the real Necro Butcher. You know, he's like, don't go throwing me off them ropes all the time. He's like, my legs are wore out and don't work so well anymore. And let's just go out there and let's just do our thing, but don't make me run too much because I'm getting old. And of course, Necro's health hasn't been the best, so we pray that, you know, things get better for him. And of course, another guy that's seen a lot, that's another part of Pondo's clique, is Too Tough Tony. He's worked with Damien on a bunch of these shows for a company called Insane Pro Wrestling, and that's whatever the initials are. It's alphabet soup out there anymore. But
Right.
Yeah, so you know, when you've got guys coming up to you like Madman Pondo and Too Tough Tony, and they're like, "Hey, man, you should be proud of that kid. He's like of yours. They're like, he's yes sir, no sir, doesn't butt into conversations, enjoys just sitting here listening to us old guys tell stories, and you know they've kind of taken him under their wing and." You know, obviously they still do a lot of hardcore, not nearly what they did when they were a bit younger, but it's nice to know that guys like that have that kind of interest in your son, that they'll come out and stand in the hallway at these in strictly insane pro wrestling shows and be out in the hallway watching your kid wrestle just because they want to see this 16-year-old at the time before the pandemic broke out. You know, they want to see what he's got. And, you know, it's nice to know that there are guys out there that have that many years experience who will still slip into a hallway, you know, which is what got me working with Gary, me and Harsh working with Gary Jackson, was that he was the kind of guy that when he heard guys rumbling about somebody like, you know, these guys are starting to do some things. And I will give Matt Maniac credit. He was the manager of the tag team power trip. And of course, then in those days we didn't care, but he helped us to a couple victories along the way. But you know, when you got guys talking about you, you know, that occasionally you get that one guy, you know, who'll step out and kind of see what you got, you know, and if they like you, you know, they'll take you under their wing, and you know, whether it be advice or, you know, actual training, you know, there's a lot of things that old timers can learn, which is why I'm glad to see that one particular company that Damien works with, that they've opened doors to the veterans, and the veterans have opened the doors to them, and it's kind of a filling out process. But you know, like I said, there's an A tier in that CHWA and a B tier, and the A tier deserves respect from the veterans, but they also need to learn that if it wasn't for those veterans, they wouldn't have a place to work, or even know that there is independent wrestling out there, and that there's an alternative to WWE or NXT or Ring of Honor or something. So it's nice to see that both sides have kind of taken a step back and said, "Hey, wait a minute, you know, we're all kind of hurting the business. Let's hash our problems out and see how we can all help each other." You know, so that's been nice to watch that from the sidelines develop, because I many of my friends are the old timers like you, Rough Cut, you, Matt Maniac, and I like a lot of those young kids, and one of them is my son, and you know, a lot of those guys are his friends. But there's also a lot of vets that he likes as well, that he considers uncles, because he grew up with, you know, that was that position, you know, it was a true brotherhood. And, you know, all of a sudden when you got a kid, you find out all of a sudden your kid's got 500 aunts and uncles that they didn't even know they had till they get in the business. And then they're like, "Oh yeah, I've went on the road a bunch of times with your dad," you know, and then they start taking interest in him. And you know, he's, like I said, I mean, I get enjoyment out of watching him. You know, and I've seen him do everything from the right thing to making mistakes, all the way to time limit draws. You know, when you're his size and can go a 30-minute time limit draw, you know, and he was wrestling Chris Exodus, who is a pretty small guy. And, you know, he could do a lot of damage to Exodus when he would catch him, but the guy is so darn wiry that he's hard to catch, and he likes to hit and kick a whole lot when you ain't catching him, you know. So, like I said, it's interesting seeing my kid grow in the business.